We often talk about the impact that the blockchain technology is getting ready moving forward to change specifically the global financial market. We often talk about how stablecoins, tokenization of assets, financial markets on a global scale, such as real estate, commodities, stock market, and the bond market, all of that is getting ready to be brought on chain. We often emphasize on how early we are in this industry, and we often also differentiate how it's important to note that the blockchain is not just a technology, but it also happens to be an asset, specifically Ethereum, because that's where most of activities, DeFi activities take place and take shape. And that's where the most development in terms of infrastructure and institutional adoption is taking place. However, all of these that we've just summarized briefly have always come from us, one of us, from the community members. And we've been discussing these topics for quite a while. As we'll see in our videos, I'll briefly show how for a while we've been talking about all of this. But now finally, we can also hear it from market leaders, such as specifically from Consensus itself, which is the founder of parent company of MetaMask that most of us are using. And most importantly, also from BlackRock, right? The largest asset manager that have been making moves, not just making moves, but literally reshaping and introducing cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin ETF and Ethereum ETFs into the markets, and have been very successful at doing that. So I'd like us to tune in to this short and brief segment of this YouTube video by the gentleman known as Joseph Kalam. He's a former head of director of strategic ecosystem partnership at BlackRock. Now he came out of retirement and is now the CEO or co-CEO of SharpLink, one of the largest Ethereum strategy company, right? So let's just tune in to understand what's his opinion. How does he look at Ethereum, the asset and the blockchain? And as a former executive with BlackRock that led BULLRUN, both Ethereum and Bitcoin ETFs to such a major success, and with all his experiences, how does he view Ethereum, and why did he come out of retirement to take this opportunity with SharpLink to spearhead this opportunity with Ethereum, the blockchain, and Ethereum, the asset? So let's briefly tune in and see or literally understand where he's coming from.
Ways it sets up for a really sound understanding of like what's the end goal with something like Ethereum. Actually, another statement from the report I really loved was, trust is arguably the world's largest yet least explicitly priced commodity. And again, goes into further understanding why Ethereum is a trust machine. But I think at its core, this report outlines an investment case for ETH, the asset. If Ethereum, the network, is hugely successful, then why will ETH, the asset, be that much more valuable? Why will it be a multi-trillion-dollar asset? So, Joseph, I'm wondering, for the types of folks that you would speak with at BlackRock, the clients you would speak with at BlackRock, what like takeaways from this report do you think most resonate? Like, what is helping folks nowadays to best understand the investment case for ETH, the asset?
Sure. I think on the one hand, ETH was hard to explain, but if you just take a step back, we are in August of 2025. ETH just spent 10 years building for this moment. And why do I say this moment? I think we're on the verge of just a massive paradigm shift. And what I mean is, crypto is roughly $4 to $5 trillion market cap opportunity. And if that is all that the L1s and the L2s are supporting, great, that's one valuation model. There's $100 trillion of US equity that are going to get tokenized. You could see it. Robinhood, eToro, others tokenizing stocks and funds. When that happens, The idea of trust is going to be critical. What do I mean by that? Things that traded Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, are going to be trading 24/7 with a velocity like we've never seen. And that means that it needs a new platform to do it. And the platform that's proven itself in stablecoins, real world assets, has been Ethereum and the L2s that derive from it. So why is this important for the value of ETH? Let's just be very clear. We've been talking about Ethereum as a global settlement layer, a decentralized trust platform. The more assets and transactions that are secured on the Ethereum network have been proven to increase the value of ETH. I believe that report and subsequent work done, if you look back at the last 5 years, for each $2 secured on the network, on Ethereum and the L2s, it's driven about $1 of market cap value of Ethereum. And if you take a step back and say stable coins are this size today, but Secretary Bessent says it's going to grow to $1 trillion over the next 3 years. If you look at the adoption of real world assets, which is in the first inning and can literally go J-curve, the value of tokenized assets, which could be measured in the trillions or tens of trillions, they are going to be secured by a decentralized network. We believe the vast majority is going to be Ethereum. That is a bull case for ETH. I'm not in the business of making predictions as to the price of ETH. Others, I'll leave them to it. But if you can give them a fundamental framework to at least guide them, then they can have two inputs. What is the real world economy and what is the crypto economy going to be in tokenized form over a period of time? And that will tell you what the price of ETH should be. And in any scenario, it's going to be significantly higher than it is today because of the network effect. And that is a very simple way to think about it. If more assets are secured on the Ethereum network, the value of ETH will go up. And the value of it being a trust commodity, the highest value of money, is going to be critically important if you believe we're at a paradigm shift. And that's what I call the ETH opportunity. It's not a trade, it's an ETH opportunity. And for all of those who feel like they missed the early days of crypto, you are at still a very early entry point in the adoption of Ethereum. And that is the long-term ETH opportunity, not the ETH trade.
So you had it yourself, community. This is exactly what I wanted us to understand and to really look at. And the individual that just spoke, as I mentioned earlier, goes by the name Joseph Kalom. Just brief background of him. He is right now the co-CEO, like I said, of SharpLink. SharpLink is one of the largest Ethereum strategy, reserve strategy company. What they do, treasury company, what they do is that purchase, their strategy is to purchase Ethereum and to add it to the balance sheet and then stake it and add value for the shareholders. And they're the second largest right now, only behind Bitmine. So, and this executive used to be a head of director, right? Head of director at BlackRock. And he went into retirement after a successful launch of Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF, known as IBIT and Ether. And then he also launched BULLRUN, right? The very first tokenized US Treasury fund built on Ethereum. So here's an individual that has experience in building products that are very successful, right? And he built 2 ETFs through Bitcoin and Ethereum. And these are the 2 most successful ETFs in the history of ETFs. And the BULL token, it was so innovative. It was the first one, the first tokenized US Treasury on Ethereum. Now he's going all in on Ethereum, and he's going all in on SharpLink and focusing on accumulating Ethereum through traditional financial ways, being listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So this is exactly what we've been talking about for so long, but now we see things happening right in front of us, unfolding in front of us. There's been a period where we were talking about these things years back, but now we see them unfolding, happening right in front of us. Why is this so relevant? Why are we mentioning this? why we so focused on this community. First of all, a lot has been said, and I'd like us to unpack quite a bit of things here that was said in this video. And as we can see, the individual mentioned quite a bit. One of the things I want us to take away, without going too deep into it, is how he mentioned that there's an Ethereum opportunity, right? It's not an Ethereum trade, it's an Ethereum opportunity. Also looked at Ethereum as the trust layer, right? And if you want currency, there has to be trust, not on a national level, but on a global level. And this is trust on a decentralized level, because it's a neutral technology. It is the upgraded version of the internet. And if you look at this, I'd like to share this with you. If you just focus on our last 8 videos that we've been talking about, the events of the markets, the industry, Ethereum, and so on and so forth. Let's start with the oldest one out of the 8. This is 3 weeks ago, when we talked about, okay, stablecoin bill is passed, what's next, right? And then we also discussed how bubbles are an indication of a maturing market. We also talked about how Ethereum, the answer to the illusion. And then Ethereum, the ultimate reserve asset, crypto industry when things don't go our way, institutional adoption of Ethereum staking, the quiet revolution. We talked about when preparation meets opportunity, for us to be prepared and ever ready, and to really have a solid understanding on where we stand right now. And we shouldn't be swayed by this short-term volatility that lasts on a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly, but rather let's look at the long-term potential of this blockchain technology and this new opportunity that is an asset and the technology at the same time. And this is something that has never happened before in the global financial industry. There's never been an asset that is a technology at the same time, and it's neutral enough that every government globally can accept it, embrace it, adopt it, use it. And the more it's being used, like Joseph just said, the more valuable it becomes, because it's deflationary. And also it's an asset that you can stake, so it's an active asset. It's not just about buying and holding, but actually you're actually receiving a passive income as you're staking it. And while you're staking it, you're also contributing to stabilizing it even more and securing the network even more. So you see that here we have an asset unlike nothing else. And this is what we've been always discussing and talking about for years. And here comes a time where executives that build global, very successful products with BlackRock are now entering Ethereum and discussing how, moving forward, Ethereum is the new layer of applications, the new layer of trust, and a neutral asset that is also a technology that the more it's adopted in going forward, he's not into the business of speculating on price, but he lets you understand that for every $2 for the last 5 years, for every $2 of trade going on Ethereum, $1, it represented $1 of its market cap. So the point he was trying to make is, now there is $100 trillion waiting to be tokenized, and majority of that is going to take place on Ethereum. That's what he was saying. So he lets you think about it. You do the math. If every $2 represent $1, so literally half. So if there's 100 trillion waiting to be tokenized in assets on Ethereum, so imagine which market cap Ethereum is getting ready to get. So for those who already did the math, we're talking about roughly 50 trillion in market cap alone. And that's just tokenized assets. That's without all these different markets that are coming, gaming, social media platforms, and all these new innovations that are taking place. That's without the derivatives markets and all of these DeFi applications that are also on top of it. So in short, we are at a time, community, where mainstream institutions executives that launch successful products with BlackRock are now seeing Ethereum for what it really is and are coming out of retirement to literally educate his former workmates and colleagues on Wall Street on this new gem, on this new opportunity. He did not retire because he's passionate about crypto and Ethereum. He retired because he sees the huge upswing and opportunity, financial gains for him, not just for himself, but for his colleagues and his company. And this is something he can be part of at this early stage. So, community, this is just to uplift us and encourage us that what we've been talking about for so long and these videos that we're putting out that serve as a roadmap for us to be able to navigate through this emotional and very volatile market that is still so young. We are seeing things unfolding that we've been discussing. Most importantly, I want us to look at the last video that we just discussed. The last video just a day ago, right on Thursday actually. We put this video out on Thursday. And it talked about how cryptos.com moment is here. We always like to see the future, right? We don't wait for mainstream to catch up and then we follow. If you want to succeed in this industry, always be ahead of the majority. Be ahead of the majority. Try to see things before they happen. And this is what these community events are all for, right? We learning from the history of students. We anticipate things before they take place so we can position ourselves accordingly. Keep in mind, none of this that is said is financial advice. These are my personal opinions that I'm sharing with the community to verify for yourselves, fact check even myself. Right. So anyway, the last video we made was titled cryptos.com moment is here. Why am I mentioning this again? It's because I always like to verify things. So this video was done on Thursday, and now today this article just came out about this new company, crypto company. It's not new, it's been around since 2014. It's led by twins. It's called Gemini, first of all. It's an exchange, right? And it's led by twins, by the Winklevoss twins. These are the twins that literally sued the former or the current CEO and founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, in 2008 for using the idea, right? So anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that Gemini's revenue fell and losses widened in the first half of 2025. Remember how we said the video we discussed in detail on how we are literally the cryptos.com moment is here. And .com moment was led by IPOs, right? There was so many IPOs, initial public offerings filed, and many companies that had anything to do with the .com or with the internet, with the website in the early 90s, mid 90s, were getting funded. Right? And it was a frenzy that eventually led to a bubble. Here we are again. Now it's not called the internet, it's called blockchain. And I just want to emphasize one thing, and I just want to highlight what we discussed on Thursday, and now we're seeing it in real life. This article just came out. Today's are based on, depending on where you're from, it's article published on the 15th. Right, so it's up to date. Today is Saturday 16th, so it's just a day, barely 24 hours old. So Gemini is an exchange. It's a cryptocurrency exchange, right? And it says that it wants to go through an IPO. It filed an IPO already in the US, and it's joining a wave of digital asset companies seeking to tap public markets. So IPOs are crypto projects, startups. With no proven track record, predominantly. They're literally startups that want to go public to tap into public markets, meaning more liquidity, access, more money, right? And the company reported, this is where the challenge is now. The company reported net loss of over 280 million in losses, right? In net losses. So on a total revenue of 68 million. So revenue was 68 million, but they had losses of over 280 million. And this only within the last 6 months that ended in June, on the 30th of June, compared with a net loss of 41 million on revenue of 74 million just 1 year earlier. So this is basically telling us that the last 2 years, this company that is filing for an IPO has been at a loss. And last year it was at a loss of it had a $74 million loss, and this year it's actually quadrupled, right? It's lost 4 times. And this is a company with no sustainable revenue, has been experiencing losses the last 2 years, but yet it's filing for an IPO so that it can tap into the public markets. And the moment it launches, it's going to triple and quadruple its prices on the stock market. And this is exactly how the dot-com bubble busted. And this was the topic we discussed just on Thursday, talking about the dot-com moment is in crypto. Crypto's dot-com moment is here, and here we are. We're seeing one of the largest crypto exchanges in the US, Gemini, reporting losses in the last 2 years, and actually experienced 4 times the losses of last year. But yet they are applying they already filed for US IPO, and investors globally are going to purchase their stocks of a company that has no track record, has been experiencing losses in revenue, and year after year, and compared to previous year, even 4 times the losses. As it's not sustainable, has major competition, and it's arguably only because now they're coming on chain, or they're becoming a publicly traded company, is not going to cause them to be necessarily to stop making profits. So these are exactly the signs that we see that eventually led to the dot-com bubble. And indeed, what we discussed on Thursday, we're seeing it happening right now, actually based on the article from the 15th, which was yesterday, Friday the 15th. Another thing I want to highlight here is that this right here. So digital asset companies have also featured prominently in the IPO market in recent months, right? Like stablecoin issuer Circle, they went public. Coinbase, they went public. And then the latest one called Bullish, it's also an exchange, right? Also went public. So we see how there's a wave of IPOs of companies trying to come out and go public to accumulate as much as possible. And if you want to understand how challenging this situation is, you see how Gemini wants to spend their money, their capital. So they were asked, how are you going to spend your capital once you go public? So Gemini said it will use IPO proceeds for general corporate purposes and to repay all or a part of its third-party debt. So obviously, they've not been generating any revenue. They've been at a loss the last 2 years. This year, even 4 times the loss of last year, so it's getting worse. They have no sustainable business strategy or business plan, and yet they're going public. And the first thing they do, instead of expanding their businesses, hiring more people, doing more research and development, they're using that money to repay third-party debts. And these are the signs we've been talking about, community, for a while now. And if we go back here, we talked about this actually 3 weeks ago, right? You see here in this video we made 3 weeks ago, bubbles are an indication of a maturing market. We made this video. This is a 3-week-old video. And now, 3 weeks later, we start seeing these signs, these articles telling us about these companies, crypto projects that are literally at a loss. They're not sustainable. They're not generating revenue, but yet they're going public, and they'll be funded in hundreds of millions and billions of dollars only because they are associated with blockchain. They're associated with this technology, and that alone is enough for VCs to pump a lot of liquidity, a lot of capital into them, also knowing that they're just pumping, hyping it, and then they'll dump it. And that's exactly what happened during the dot-com bubble. So let's come home with this. Let's summarize all of this. This is not to put fear in us. Actually, this has two reasons why we're mentioning all of this. The first reason is to tell us that indeed before a bubble bursts, there must be a huge liquidity coming in. We just heard Joseph Kalom talk about 100 trillion of assets getting ready to be tokenized. We already heard how Toro and Robinhood are into tokenizing assets. We know BlackRock is already tokenizing assets. We know about the stablecoin bill that just got passed. A lot of institutions, financial institutions, are getting ready to have tokenized deposit tokens, issuing stablecoins. We heard about Amazon and Walmart debating on having their own stablecoins as well. We know Meta, Facebook, already is in talks about that as well. And we could go on and on. We understand that there's a wave of liquidity about to hit specifically Ethereum because it's the home of DeFi, and it's where the tokenized assets have the infrastructures ready. And that's where UBS, Visa, MasterCard, JP Morgan, BlackRock, and many, many more have built infrastructures on there to facilitate onboarding, offboarding, and to also have a derivatives market ready through BlackRock's tokenized money market funds that JP Morgan is going to use using their tokenized collateral network also built on Ethereum for the derivatives market. The derivatives market is a $1 quadrillion market. So even if a fraction of that takes place on Ethereum, which predominantly will, based on Joseph Kalom, we hear that for every $2 traded on Ethereum, $1 goes towards market cap. So let's just take that 100 trillion he talked about. And if currently we use that number figuratively, and we see how 100 trillion gets tokenized and placed on Ethereum, that puts Ethereum at a 50 trillion market cap. As we speak right now, we understand that. As we speak right now, we see that the whole market, crypto market, is just below 4 trillion. So let's say it's at a 4 trillion market cap. This is the whole industry, and the largest cryptocurrency being Bitcoin holds half of that. So 2.3 trillion is just Bitcoin alone. So focusing on tokenized assets and all the liquidity that is getting ready to, and innovation that is getting ready to be launched on Ethereum based on market experts like the likes of Joseph, a former executive of BlackRock and a current executive of SharpLink, that is an Ethereum treasury strategy company, is talking about if just 100 trillion of assets deployed on Ethereum and that type of volume kicks in, it's going to put Ethereum at roughly 50 trillion market cap. Right now it's at a 500 billion. So that's, for the math geniuses, that's 100x from here, 100x. So what he said was that he's not into the business of speculating, putting price tags on Ethereum. There are other people to do that. And I agree with that. I just want us to have an idea of what's coming and what's being built on Ethereum, and why would an executive that is well decorated, that has achieved massive success, that, like he said, he was thinking that he would go into the sunset, just relax at the beach, be with his family. Why would he come out of retirement and kickstart this brand new project, a startup known as SharpLink, focusing on Ethereum, and after retiring from BlackRock, successfully launching IBIT, the most successful ETF in the world, and launching Ether, the second most successful ETF in the world, and then launching BULLRUN, the first tokenized US Treasury, also all of that on Ethereum. Why would he come back? and go all in on Ethereum this way. And what we've just had him saying is convicted. He's talking with conviction. There's not just some random individual, but there's an individual that has a track record for leading the largest asset manager to produce the most successful financial products in the world in terms of ETFs. And now they're starting all over again and focusing and going all in on specifically on Ethereum, because he believes that Ethereum is the next gen internet, the layer of trust, and that Ethereum is literally built to become not just a layer of applications, a neutral layer of application, that our trust platform, but also a future strategic reserve asset as well. So community, this is the message for today. And the takeaway of today should be, let's understand that these videos we put out, it's forward thinking, right? We see things, anticipate things that are about to happen, and then we discuss them in the community so that we can position ourselves accordingly. It's too late if you're just going with the flow, if you're going with the crowd. If it hits mainstream already, then it's already too late. These are things that we discuss on a daily basis, either on Zoom or every Wednesday, led by Queens Debbie and Val on YouTube, or on Twitter, that we have Twitter Spaces on Monday, or on these videos that we produce. We always put in nuggets and info that guide us and serve as a roadmap for us to think ahead, see ahead, and not be swayed by the daily trades that are happening, or the weekly, monthly trades, or even yearly trades, but rather let's look at long term. What is this technology potentially capable of, and how early we are in it? And if you look at the big picture, take a step back and zoom out and look at this technology, this industry, for what it really is, and to its fullest potential, we quickly realize that we are literally at the very earliest stages of a massive paradigm shift. Like Joseph Calum said, this is a paradigm shift that is happening right in front of us, like we've not seen before. Here is an asset that is a technology at the same time, that is a neutral, decentralized asset and a technology, and it is an opportunity. It's the ETH opportunity. And anybody that understands this will make the most out of it. But we have to also add that you want to be part of an ecosystem that is literally capable, built to make the most out of it. And how do you make the most out of a project, out of this liquidity rush that is coming? You want to be part of an ecosystem that is literally focusing on addressing all four challenges that we faced within this industry, one of them being lack of liquidity, inflation, unsustainable staking distributions, and inefficient use of volume. This is exactly what our BULLRUN ecosystem is all about. This is what Survive and Killer Whale is about. It's about deflation, it's about sustainability, it's about efficient use of trading volume, it's about sustainable mechanisms put in place in terms of having sustainable staking distribution that is based on volume and liquidity. Lack thereof. This is why our supply is scarce, not deflationary, but scarce, meaning our supply keeps shrinking. And also importantly is you want an ecosystem that retains liquidity. What's the point of trillions of dollars, $100 trillion hitting Ethereum, and your ecosystem, your token, your platform does not retain any of that? That's very important. So retain liquidity, reduce your supply, at least be deflationary, have a sustainable staking distributions, and use your volume efficiently as the liquidity is being traded, deep liquidity is being traded. And make sure that we don't miss this opportunity that we have right in front of us, that we've been discussing for so long, as you can see in these videos, community videos and community events that we've been putting out. And the latest one, cryptos.com moment, is here. We just shared this article, community, and we see that indeed everything we discussed on how bubbles are formed, and there's nothing wrong with bubbles. if you play your cards right, you actually benefit from these bubbles, because now you know that there's a rush. In order for a bubble to take place, multi-year liquidity injection has to take place, which will lead to inflation. And then once inflation hits its peak, that's when the markets will be at their peak. And then after that, community will have the bubble burst. And that's when experienced, more sustainable, efficient platforms, ecosystems such as ours, the BULLRUN ecosystem that focuses on addressing these four challenges, like we said: retain liquidity, reduce your supply, have a sustainable staking distribution without causing inflation, and then also use your volume efficiently. Those that don't have those mechanisms in place are not going to make it out of the bubble. But those who manage to come out will be the next Googles, the next Amazon, the next Microsoft, the next Apple, and so on and so forth. So position yourself now accordingly, based on fundamentals, not based on hype. And let's not be swayed by short-term volatility and ups and downs of the markets based on sentiments. But let's look at the long-term potential of this industry, of this technology. And let's look at Ethereum for what it really is. Let's look at the BULLRUN ecosystem, including Survivor and Killer, for what they really are, and then make our choices accordingly. This is the message for today, community. I hope the message came across, and I hope that all of you stay well and safe. I hope your weekend is great. And for the queens tomorrow that have their session, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful session for tomorrow on Sunday. If you are queen and not part of these sessions yet, I highly encourage you to be part of it. With that said, community, I wish you all a wonderful rest of the day till we meet again.